Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. I finally got around to planting those plants that were sitting out on my decking, or more to the point, I got motivated to supervise while my mum did it. Well, we did some gardening together. She likes to get busy here on the farm and do things, and she was coming up to take me out for brunch. And before we went out, she decided to spend some time in the garden, which was nice. So we planted those few things that were in pots. We also planted some strawberries that she had taken out of her garden, which aren't doing so well there, but we've been experimenting with strawberries here and they've been doing quite well, so we've moved them all up to here. We did some pruning and just some looking at what's in the garden and sort of deciding what's going to be pruned and moved and everything. There's a few things that are flowering, which we need to wait until they're done, and then we will give them a prune. So it was a good little time out in the shed garden. I also weeded one of the veggie boxes where I have garlic planted, just so that I could actually find the garlic again. It's probably good that it had some protection for a little while to get them to grow, but now I want to make sure that they have the space in order to be able to grow properly. And all of the weeds that I pulled, and even some of the grass that's sort of out in the grass area beside the shed, I was pulling and I was throwing that over to the sheep. So as we were working, the sheep were having a feast on all of the weeds. So they were very happy to have the company and also to be having quite a lot of extra food. As well as a food trough, which I spoke about last week for the sheep, I'm also thinking about perhaps getting some temporary fencing so that I can move them out of their paddock into the area out near the shed where the grass is quite long, and potentially have them just in there for a day or two while I'm over here working in the shed. If I could move them in there, they could eat the grass down and then I can move them back into their paddock at night. So I'm researching some options for that to see if that would be a viable thing to work. I'd probably need help moving them for the first time because they haven't actually been moved out of that paddock now since they were quite small. In summer, we had them over near the clothesline, but they've been in that paddock for a while now. So I'd have to sort of be able to figure out if I can coax them with just a rattling grain bucket and if they would just follow me all the way. I think they would, and it's not very far. But I wouldn't want to risk it by myself and have all three of them going in different directions. So, yeah, I want to research some options for some temporary fencing to potentially have them be able to graze out in the grass area by the shed. I've been doing a lot more dyeing again this week. I've done 4 more colours on my lattice sock base. I did Jewel Sea, Winter Sunrise, While the Sun Shines, and Rainbow Gold. So a couple of fun speckled colours and some variegated tonal colours. I need to rebuild up my stock of dyed yarn on my lattice sock base, as I've been selling it at the unwind sock classes and also at the tea time yarn retreats. So I really need to get my stock levels back up so that I can sell them at the next few months of these events. I have stock classes coming up at Unwind in July, August, and September. So that's really exciting. There's been a lot of great feedback from the last class and a lot of brand new sock knitters, which is really great. The other thing I've been working on over here in the shed has been rescanning all of those flower colorways that I dyed the last couple of weeks. Here is a selection of all of the colors that I have dyed in the last couple of weeks. So that's 10 of my 12 flower colorways. I just think they're so pretty and make a really beautiful bunch of flowers together. This week I am wearing Radiate by Joji Locatelli. This is the second Radiate that I have made. I love the fit of this jumper. It is really great. The yoke is double yarn, so it's beautiful and warm. It's an 8 ply. I'm using a natural brown from, don't remember the name of the company, but I'll put it in the link below. And the green is from Colleen's Crafts. This one I made a little shorter, and I'm kind of in a way regretting that decision because it's snuggly and warm, but then I've got cold wrists. But I do pull up my sleeves quite a bit. So having it at sort of what is that, bracelet length, um, is practical for doing things, but then you kind of want to pull it down to get that extra warmth. So I need to remember when I wear this one that I probably need to have mitts or gloves on that sort of come down over my wrists as well, sort of to combo it up to keep properly warm. But as I said, I'm just now just pulling my sleeves up anyway. So it's sort of, yeah, it works, but it doesn't work. I'm not going to unpick it and make the sleeves longer. It does work, but I need to keep in mind that I probably should from now on create that longer sleeve, because I can always roll up the cuff or push it up rather than wanting to have to pull it down. I made a small amount of progress on my stripy socks that I've been working on. I'm not quite to the heel yet, so I'm getting close. I worked on these at the Unwind Cheese and Wine Night, and then I also had these during the sock class, and I was using these as part of an example and also just knitting on them a little bit while everyone else was doing their knitting as well, but not a ton of progress. I also haven't made a ton of progress on my painting honeycomb shawl this week. After being quite productive on it, I have stalled a little bit on it. In fact, so much so that it actually has stoppers rather than the needle points, because my next project that I'm going to show you has the same size needles and I only have one set of tips, so I've had to steal them from this project. So I put my marker in where I was last week, so I've only literally done one additional row of the color since you saw it last. So what have I been spending most of my knitting time on then? Well, I talked about wanting to knit a Douglas cardigan out of yarn that I had dyed up in a colorway specifically for it. The benefit of being a hand dyer, you can create your own color. So I had created the color and I knit myself a square. I just wanted to see how the colors were going to play on each other and how they were going to stack. And I really like how it's come out. I also wanted to see if I was going to get close to gauge for the Douglas cardigan, which I kind of have, I think. I always feel like gauge lies, so I don't feel like there's too much point in doing like a proper gauge swatch because I've never had it work out 100%. I just kind of have to go with the knitting of the project and not worry so much about the gauge swatch, because I feel like over this amount of stitches, you kind of concentrate and you do it in one sitting, whereas a jumper you do over, goodness, it could be over a few months or even a year. So your gauge changes over time, but also your gauge can change based on your mood or the amount of time that you've got that particular session that you're sitting to knit. And so you might be quite tight sometimes, you might be looser other times. And so you kind of end up with a gauge that's not true compared to the swatch that you've done. But just in terms of the color, that is why I did a square. So I've got a record of the color, and I just wanted to see how it was going to turn out. So this is it in the skein. And so, as I said, I've started the Douglas cardigan. I've decided to knit the smaller size. I'm kind of a little bit iffy about whether I should have gone up to the next size, but I think it'll block out all right. Reading the pattern, that should give me a stack of positive ease. But again, if my gauge is not 100% right, then it will vary. But we'll go with this for the first one, and then I can always, if I like the pattern, I can always change and go up to the next size for potentially my next one. Like I've done with the Radiate Knit a couple. Maybe it's something that will end up being a staple in my wardrobe. So I'm onto my second ball. So I used the rest of the ball that I did the swatch with, and I've started on a second ball. I kind of went to stripe it in, but now that I have looked and seen, I don't think I'm going to have to do that with my next few balls, because it looks fairly consistent and I don't think you're going to see any really severe color change between them. Obviously, I've done all of these 6 skeins that I dyed up in the same batch, so they should match pretty well. There could be a little bit of variation, which there should be with hand-dyed yarn, but not enough that's going to leave severe stripes or weird different pooling across each of the different skeins. Now, this is the first bottom-up garment that I've done in a very long time. So again, I'm not sure about how the sizing is going to go, and I kind of can't tell until I'm going to be up around the arms, because I'm increasing rather than decreasing. So the shaping is all sort of out of whack for what I'm used to. So hopefully it will fit me. It's quite bunched up on the needles, but I've done ribbing at the bottom and I'm all tangled. And I have done about 25, 30 rows of the body. So I'm about to put in the what's it called? The waist yarn for the afterthought pockets or pre-thought pockets, which will go on the front. So yeah, I've just been zooming along on it and I really love it. Love how my colors are turning out. And I'm thinking that based on how good I think this looks, I might do a whole collection of this style of dyeing, with some different colors in the background instead of like that purple and blue that I have coming through. Thinking I could do one that's a couple of greens, maybe some sort of yellow mustard kind of colors. And I'd be interested if there's any sort of background pops of color that you'd really want to see in a yarn for your own sweater project. So what I've done is it's like little pops of color, and then it's all over dyed with a sort of a brown black, very light wash, which makes the yarn not bright white, and it also mutes out the colors a little bit. And I really love how it's coming out. So I'm excited to keep knitting on this project because I really want to have it finished. One, to see if it fits me, but also to be able to show off this yarn because I absolutely love it. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.